Hi everyone, it's James, and I am here about to conduct this week's Oracle Outlook video reading. It is Monday morning, September the 15th, 2025, and if you are here for the first time, I'd like to say welcome, and if you're a returning viewer and subscriber, I'd like to say welcome back, and thank you for subscribing to the channel and supporting the work that goes into the channel. So this week I'm going to be continuing to work with my favorite deck to date, and that is a deck of my own making. If you're here for the first time, I'm working with the Mitchell Fortune Telling Oracle. I lovingly call this deck my buddy deck, my bestie. And it is a loving hybrid of cards from the Lenormand system, cards from the Kipper system, and cards from the Bohemian card system, if you're familiar with any of those. And then I have created some of my own, just for good measure, throwing them into the mix. The cards are a 55 card deck, and so I have also color-coded the borders, and they signify either a particular area of life or a certain functionality of the cards, and so you'll see more of that as the reading progresses. So I am continuing my experimentation with the deck, and so if you're here for the first time, what I've been doing is I've been exploring many different layouts and techniques to work with the cards. And so this week I had the inspiration for working with two different types of Tableau-style readings, because if you're familiar with Lenormand, Kipper, Bohemian cards, they are best read in Tableau-style layouts. So I'm going to be conducting one of those two ideas this week, and then the other in the following week's video. So this week we're going to be doing what I'm calling the Tableau of 13. It's going to consist of 13 cards, and we are asking the question, what do we need to know about the week ahead? And we're just going to let the cards tell us what could possibly unfold. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle and lay out the cards now. Alright, the cards have been shuffled, cut, and dealt, and as you can see, for the Tableau of 13, we have 2 rows of 5 cards each, so 2 lines of 5, and then at the bottom we have a 3-card row, so that totals 13 cards. And so the way I look at it, as the top 2 lines of 5, if you're familiar with this, is when I was working with double lines of 5 using 2 different decks. So for some of you longtime viewers, that might be a little familiar. So that's actually the Tableau, and then the 3 cards at the bottom would be like final advice, or a summation, or the bottom line. Okay, that's how I'm going to look at it. So we have 2 cards, because the 3 cards don't make up the Tableau, so we have these 2 cards as the heart of the matter, or the central issue, or the focus. So let's take a look at those going from the top down. So at the top row we have the Priest card. Okay, so the Priest card is a purple border, and it is a spiritual card. So the Priest card can talk about our spiritual life, our spiritual practice, right? So I'm noticing in the image, so I'll hold it up closer, I'm noticing in the image that the priest is praying. So this could be the act of prayer, right, in the spiritual context. So there may be people who are actively praying or putting in the energy of prayer for things that are going on in the collective, right? Or that what's going on in the collective is getting you to reflect on your personal life, your spiritual life, your spiritual practice, things like that. Now, the act of prayer, if it's not in the spiritual context, taken out of that, it could be that there's a a sense of asking for something, a request for something, petitioning for something, right? Because that's what we do in our prayer lives. We ask things of Spirit, we request things of Spirit, we petition Spirit, right? So all those things, you could take those out and saying that's, we're asking for things, requesting things, petitioning for things. Right. I would say for me, when the priest card comes up, it can also talk about spiritual practitioners, right? So this is anybody who may be in spiritual leadership. This could be a clergy person, any kind of priest, clergy, pastor, reverend, minister, people like that. It can also be people who are magical practitioners, right? Because in certain magical traditions, there are positions known as priest or high priest, right? So there's that element too. And then the last thing I will say from a spiritual perspective or context is that this card can turn up to suggest that life is really your spiritual teacher. Not necessarily a person, but your life overall, you know. And you look at your life in a spiritual sense in terms of what it is teaching you about yourself. So that's what I would say about the priest card. Now, it could also be that there may be a spiritual figure who's going to play a central role or part. I was about to say figure prominently in this week's unfolding in terms of events, because this card is in the middle of the line. Okay, so now let's take a look at the card beneath it. And here we have younger woman. So this card has a magenta border, and in my deck the people cards have magenta borders. So now the way this could be read is that this could be a spiritual figure, and then this could be what the spiritual figure has under his or her control because it's underneath. Or this could be a person who has some kind of influence over this person here. A younger woman is a person who's younger than myself as the reader, or younger than you all who are landing on the video. So this could be someone's daughter, someone's younger sister, or just a younger woman who's figuring prominently in the situation. Now this could be also two separate lines that's coming to me in the moment. This could be two separate lines, so we'll have to see how it unfolds for each person. But in one particular scenario, there may be a spiritual person, a spiritual leader, a spiritual authority figure, who may be figuring prominently in a situation, and then a younger woman in particular in another situation. Now, the younger woman card can play a double role. It doesn't necessarily always mean a person. So in this sense, it could be about fun, beauty, creativity. Those are all themes that are ascribed to the younger woman. And so what I did here is I put her in a mall. So in the background, she's in a mall with other people. And so this could be a nod to choices and selections, right? Because when you go to the mall, there's lots of different stores that you could choose to buy things in, right? So it could just be about, in the background, it could be about choices and selections and options, right? Sometimes the mall can present what we think we need and want in life, right? May not be the basics, but things that we think we need and want in life, right? And so we have lots of options there. So that's what I'm seeing with the younger women right now. So now the surrounding cards will give us more information. So now that I've looked at the central issue and focus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start looking at the opening card, and then we're going to look at the closing card in the tableau. Okay, so now opening the tableau up, we have expectations. Okay, so here, expectations. And so expectations has a coral orange border because it is a cause and effect card. So now it's very funny that I talked about the mall in the background of this card, because this card talks about needs, wants, desires, right? So there's anticipation here, there's an expectation, right? And so the way the cause and effect cards work, she's looking out. So this would be, if there was a card here, this would be the effect. And so I have space. I'm looking in my camera viewfinder, and there's space here, so I could draw another card. But this card is going to be important because it represents the cause behind the need, the want, the anticipation, the expectation, right? This card literally can mean, like, you know, having the patience to wait for something. It's one of the patience cards in the deck. So, but yeah, this card would suggest whatever the need, want, desire is about. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. So now let's move from this card to over here. The tableau ends up with, okay, so here we have the bed card. And if you watched last week's video, you may remember this. This turned up in the money reading that I did last week. I did a series of quick hits, and this was in the money reading. And so for me, this card has two specific meanings. First off, it has a pink border. It is a connector card. And so when it turns up, I designed it to first and foremost represent physical intimacy. So this would be the sex card in the deck. I wanted one specifically for that. But it can also represent consequences, right? And so I based it on the expression of you've made your bed, now lie in it, right? For me, that expression has always been about the consequences of our past or prior actions, right? And so it represents those two things chiefly. And so it being a connector card, it's going to connect to this card here because the connector cards connect to cards on either side of them. Right? So this younger woman here, if we go with the idea that she is a person, then this card would be behind her, and then this would be the consequences of something in the past, but it's connected to this card, so we'll have to take a look at that card as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all the other cards. I'm going to begin the process of turning them over. Wow, so all I can say after turning them all over, I'm stunned. So I'm just going to move through this, and I wasn't sure if the events of last week, and what I'm talking about is the shooting of Charlie Kirk, was going to show up in the reading. So I see it in two ways. So I'm going to start right here with the first card. So remember, expectation is a cause and effect, right? And so if this is about need, want, desire for something to happen in the future, like we're waiting for something, right? This could also be outlook, right? Because she's looking out of a window, so this card can also be about one's outlook. Here, we have anger. I'm going to hold the card up. This showed up last week too, and it's very funny, and not funny haha, but funny that this card would show up again. If you watched last week's video, this showed up in the collective or general reading that I did. It was the fourth reading out of 4, and it showed up as the first card in the line of 5, right? And I talked about the chief meaning of this card. First, it's a connector card because it has a pink border. So the anger card is also connected to the need, the want, the desire of the expectations card, right? These two cards are connected in two different ways. But in that reading, I talked about the chief meaning of the card being about conflict and discord. And so we all got to see on display the conflict and the discord and the anger that resulted after the shooting of Charlie Kirk, right? So I'm seeing this here as being more of that, right? If this is the need, want, or desire, the cause behind it is the anger. And so I immediately thought about the the rhetoric that was on full display after the shooting. Now, anger is also connected to the priest card, so this could be about people in positions of authority in spiritual and religious circles, and the anger is connected to them, to the priest card, I should say. And so it could be how do they play a role in the anger, the conflict, the discord, the rhetoric that we have all been seeing, right? And then I'm going to continue the line over. Here we have sadness. Sadness is another cause and effect card, the coral orange border. And the way it works here is that the priest card here would be the effect of the sadness card. And then the man card, which is important, I'm going to note that in a moment, is behind the sadness card, which is the cause of sadness. So sadness means sadness, upset, disappointment. And if you mirror the cards, mirroring is a technique where you mirror cards on opposite sides of the line. So here we have sadness and we have anger, two emotional states of being, yes? Right? But here, the cause behind the sadness is the man card, right? And interestingly enough, look at the direction. The man is looking out of the tableau and there's no card in front of him, right? So I always look at this two ways. Either this is about the past of the person, right? Or that this person is seeking to exit out of this situation. So we could say here that a man has made his exit, right? The cause of the sadness, upset, disappointment is a man has made his exit. And then the effect is going to be on the religious circle. So the sadness, upset, disappointment, here's the cause, but the effect is going to be here. Or people are going to be upset, sad, disappointment with people in positions in spiritual and religious circles and traditions. And maybe in terms of how they are offering messages regarding the situation. And are they helping to heal the anger that's taking place? I'm noting here, I'm jumping. So I'm noting that anger knights to tree. So we count over 2 and down 1. That's a process called knighting. And here, tree is a card that talks about healing, right? So here we have healing for the anger. And I talked about that last week because key was also in the same line as the anger card last week and the marriage card. And I asked the question, I just put the question out there as a food for thought type thing. Like, how are we committed to resolving, because key is a card of answers and solutions, how are we committed to resolving the state of conflict and discord that we are all experiencing in the collective? And here, this is a nod to that, healing the anger. How does the anger get healed? Especially when it runs deep. Let me hold up the tree card. The tree card has deep roots. I specifically wanted that in the image because this card for me can represent our roots, our ancestry, our lineages, right? Because tree can represent extended family, so it's a pun for family tree, in addition to healing, right? But this could be something that's deeply rooted, right? Whatever the situation is, it's deeply rooted, right? And also, too, I wanted the roots to be exposed in the image, so it could just be exposing the roots, yeah? But this would say that the anger needs to find a way to be healed, but it also runs deep. Okay, so I'm clearly seeing that, this week that people are still going to be, and that's understandably so, people are still going to be in emotional states of being regarding Charlie Kirk. So that's one way of looking at this. So now, if we talk about it in a different context here, the man can be any male who's watching this video and myself as the reader, because it represents a male significator or a male querent or a male seeker, so there's that. So in this context, then this would be what we call inauspicious placement, because all the cards are behind the figure. So this could be things that those of us who identify as male are going to be challenged with this week, right? So it could be that we're going to be challenged with emotional states of being, like anger, sadness, right? Being upset, disappointment, or disappointed, excuse me. So this could be upset, disappointed, but maybe with something in the past that's having a spillover effect into this week, right? And then the priest card could be about your spiritual life, your spiritual direction. Maybe if you asked for something of another person, or you petitioned spirit for something, maybe there's some sense of upset because maybe your request hasn't been answered in the way that you've been hoping for. And I'm going to mirror, right, expectation with man. This could be still waiting, right? Still waiting for something to happen that hasn't happened yet, right? Because this card is about patience and waiting. And then here we have the cause behind it, maybe getting angry as the process goes on for whatever it is that you are waiting for to show up in your life. So that's another way of looking at it, right? Okay, so now let's go to the next row. So, of course, the death card here also made me think of the passing of Charlie Kirk when you go death and man, just as I did with these two corners. Do it here, right? So there's that, the passing. For me, the death card, it's the only card in my deck that has a black border. But if you notice that the Reaper is holding an hourglass, so this is also about time, right? So it's very interesting that we have two timing cards here with expectations. Expectations is a card that has a 3-month window of time in it, right? So it's called 3 months patience. And then this card, the hourglass, is a timing instrument, right? So I always sometimes look at it in terms of death, because death can represent endings and completions. This card could suggest like time is running out. But with the man card, if this is the past for the man, then the time has run out for a man, right? But then if for this week it may be as a result of what's taking place already, there's still going to be some changes, because the death card can represent a sense of profound change, right? So could there still be some changes that are taking place, right? Now I'm looking at the next card in this line is the Law card. So the Law card, just like the Death card, is the only card in the deck. It has a gray border, and the gray is a color of neutrality, right? So the Law card can be about decisions, first and foremost, and with it, with the scales in the background behind the Judge, it can represent, weighing the pros and the cons of a particular choice or decision that needs to be made. It could be a choice or decision that's going to involve more than one person. So it's about doing what's fair, what's right, what's just for everyone involved in that situation. It can also be about the law itself. So this could be about a legal matter, or that the Death card is going to move into something that has to do with law. Right, and so if we put it in the context of the Charlie Kirk situation, this could be the continuing investigation from a legal matter or a law enforcement matter, right? But I'm going to go with the idea that this is talking about legalities, legal matters, and the need to make a decision. Now, this is about making a well-informed decision. So what do I mean by that? Going with the idea that the image has a judge, and the judge makes a ruling or a verdict based on the facts and the evidence that's being presented in the courtroom at the time, right? And also to what is considered precedent in terms of law. Now, this is where I have to put my disclaimer. I am not a legal professional, so I only know so much about these kinds of things. But in the analogy that I'm presenting to you all, is that this card is about taking facts and evidence and weighing that, taking that into account, and then making a decision based on that, right? Now, this could also be about something that's weighing on you, right? Because I'm noting here that anger is above it, right? So this would be influencing this. So it could be a decision that's going to be made as a result of conflict or discord. But that's what I'm seeing with the law card. Now, coming back to younger woman, she is facing these, right? So this could be, in another context, a younger woman who is facing something having to do with a legal matter, right? She's facing the law, right? And then the ending or completion of that, if we read these as line of sight, right? And so now here, the tree card is about maybe something from the past, because just like expectations, this is also a card that represents patience and something that has grown and developed. The tree card is about growth and development. So for her, this could be about something from the past that has now grown and developed to the point where now she may be facing the law in some shape, form, or fashion. Right? And then the bed card could be, like I said, you've made your bed, now you lie in it, consequences for past actions, right? So it could be a situation that has grown and developed from the past consequences, and now she's facing either some legal situation or ramification for that, or simply that she needs to make an important decision, right? She needs to weigh the pros and the cons of a decision that she's being faced with, or that she's facing justice for the consequences of a past or prior action, right? Because the law card can also be a card of justice, and then that situation being resolved, right, coming to an end, or a sense of completion. And so now I said these last three cards would be kind of a summation or final advice. But before I get to those, what I'm going to do is I read the rows, so now I'm going to look at the columns here and see if there's anything else I see. I touched on these, and I touched on this in a way, with expectations and debts. So this could be about a need, want, or desire, and bringing that to a conclusion, right? But there may be an element of waiting in this scenario because you have two timing cards, right? Now I could say if the person's been waiting for some time, that the waiting could be coming to an end because of the hourglass and the death card. Now again here, this could be conflict, discord, and it may get to the point where it's going to involve the law, or that the conflict or discord is going to influence a decision, right, and weighing the pros and the cons of the decision, or looking at it from all angles and perspectives, right? That's the symbol of the scales in the background. And then here, if we're talking about our spiritual life and direction, then this could be having fun. Just remember now, this is fun, creativity, beauty. So putting that in the lens of our spiritual life. Now this could also be the asking, the requesting, the petitioning of a younger woman for something. And then here, sadness, upset, disappointment with what? Maybe with something having to do with healing, or healing a sense of sadness, upset, disappointment. It may be something that's deeply rooted, right? Maybe the upset, sadness, disappointment has taken time to grow and develop, and so it's going to take some time to heal it. And again, that's the symbolism of the roots, right? Now this could also be sadness, upset, disappointment with extended family. Remember, I said this is about the family tree, extended family. So for some people, that there may be some a sense of upset with extended family, and then remember that tree knights to anger, right? And then here we have a man with the bed card. So now remember, the bed card can be about sex and sexual relations. So this could be a man who's finding himself maybe in what's the situation, what's the words, a compromising situation, yeah, and having to deal with that, right? It's about getting that situation under control. And then again, it could also be a man who's dealing with the consequences of his actions, going with the chief meaning of the bed card for me. And as I noted the idea about the compromising situation, here we have with the tree card, the words that are coming to me is sexual healing, right? There's a song, I believe, called Sexual Healing, right? So it's making me think of that term. So it could be somebody who may be, in the process of recovery from that type of addiction. So I'm just putting that out there as well. So that's what I'm seeing with these two cards. And so I'm not seeing anything else that I want to touch on in these cards. So now we're going to turn our attention to these cards. And then I'm going to draw a card for the expectations card to kind of round things out. So remember now, the three cards here at the bottom are kind of a final advice or summation or even the bottom line. Like, that expression, like this is the bottom line, right? So let's look at it in that sense. So here we have dog. Dog is a pink bordered card, so it can be a connector card. Dog is about trust, loyalty. It can represent friends, friendships, companions, companionship, partnerships, things like that. But it's about loyalty, trust, being trustworthy, fidelity. That's like loyalty to the end, right? So there's some situations with that. Now also too, dog can be a card that can represent lawyers. And then how interesting is it that law is above this card? And law can also represent anybody who is, works in the legal profession. So this could be judges, lawyers, things like that, right? And as I'm talking about that, I just want to come back up here really quickly too. Going with that, this could also be a younger woman who's going to be facing judgment, right? Possibly. Just putting that out there too. Because other things come to mind as I'm talking about things in other cards. Okay, but so here we have issues regarding trust, being trustworthy, loyalty, things like that. And interestingly enough, I'm going to jump over this card just for a moment and come to this card. So the jealousy and envy card at the end of this three card line is the exact opposite of this card. This card can be about trust. This card is about mistrust or distrust. Right? If you notice, there's three figures in the card. So we have a person who's in the bushes watching the couple in the foreground of the image, right? So he represents distrust or mistrust in anything that's on this side, because this is a cause and effect card, coral orange border. So this is the cause behind the sense of mistrust or distrust that's being presented by jealousy and envy. So this card can also be about third parties. So there may be a situation in which a third party is going to enter into. Right? And I'm seeing here that jealousy and envy knights to law. So it could be regarding a decision, weighing the pros and the cons, weighing the facts and the evidence, or it could just represent a legal matter or legal situation. It may involve a third party in that regard. But this card can also be about surveillance. So maybe in the sense of a investigation or, something having to do with law and law enforcement, then here we have surveillance, about being monitored, being observed, right? So there is that. And then the card on this side would be what is being envied, right? So now that brings me to our middle card, the path card. So now the path card can be talking about things that are happening down the road. So here, I would just say, so as a situation progresses or advances or unfolds, right, the path, this could be about having a sense of mistrust or distrust as things unfold down the line. Right, now, if I mirror the cards, if I mirror priest and path, if you notice they both have purple borders, they're both spiritual cards, then in this sense, there may be some sense of asking spirit or petitioning spirit about one's spiritual direction in life. This card for me can be about our calling, what we are called to do, or the path that we are called to walk. And so there may be, for some people, putting energy into that direction, getting that sense of clarity around that. Now the card has a rainbow in the image, so this is about weathering a storm and clearing the air. That's the clouds underneath the rainbow. But what fascinates me about this line is the polar opposites here, with the trust and the mistrust flanking the path card. So there's going to be situations going forward that are going to show us our ability to be trusting and our ability to be distrusting or suspicious. Right? And so I'm noting here that dog knights to tree. And so again, this would be about healing, right? Dog in that regard can be about help, support, and advice. So this could be people who are counselors, therapists, healers, things like that. You know, it also knights to priests, so this could be spiritual guides. I look at dog as a card of guidance, playing on the idea of guide dog, right? But it could just be that as a situation unfolds, path, it's going to move from trust to maybe distrust, mistrust, or maybe even suspicion. And it could be maybe the idea of third parties or more than one person being involved in whatever that situation is, right? Now the obvious thing here could be, if it's a romantic type situation, the idea of a third party in the mix and maybe discovering another person is in the relationship, right? And then having to deal with that. Now another scenario that's coming to me, if we go with the idea this is third parties and knights to law, this could be maybe somebody who is seeking separation, right? The ending of something, right? Death, the ending of something, and it's because of, you know, a third party being involved, right? So the ground here, bottom line, the grounds might be adultery, right? And notice that it is in close proximity to the bed card, right? So there may be a situation where there's a relationship going on and there's going to be the discovery of a third party and how that's going to impact the relationship going forward. Right, but in a general sense, it makes me feel like with path being in between these two cards, the bottom line here is that we could move from being in a state of trusting to a state of distrusting, mistrusting, or being suspicious. And that would be as things unfold path. Okay, so the last thing I said I was going to do was draw a card for expectation, so let's do that to round this reading out. Alright, so I drew the final card for this week's reading, and it is in front of expectation, so let's go ahead and turn it over. So now remember, this is the outlook, right? This is what the need, the want, the desire, what the effect is going to be, or the outcome. So here we have the money card. So money can represent literal money, right? This is a card of monetary or financial transactions. The hand in the image is open to receive the coins that are being dropped into it, right? So this could be being on the receiving end of some form of monetary or financial transaction, right? Because she, the woman, she is facing this. So she's open and receptive to receiving this, right? She's waiting for it, right? So if it's not about that, if it's not about actual money, the other meaning of this card can be about change and improvement, right? It being change is at hand. Get it with the image, right? And so it could be about change and improvement. So this could be about, and remember now, this is still a cause and effect card. Let's not leave out the cause. Anger is the cause behind the need, the want, desire. So anger, conflict, discord is behind the need, the want, the desire. For what? For change and improvement. Right? And then here, the money card, knights to law. So this could be what? Making some changes or improvements in law. Right? And I'm going to bring it here. And Also, the thing about this card for me is that there are houses in the background. So usually they can mean one or two things. It can mean, like in our personal lives, this card would be about household bills, expenses, paying for things that we make a part of our personal daily lives, right? Our daily living expenses. Yeah, let's put it like that. But the houses in the background can also be a pun for knighting to law, right? Because the law card can be about government, politics, things like that. This could also be a pun for Congress, right? The House of Representatives, right? And so they would be in a place to make decisions to change and improve things, right? And why, in a sense, after the resulting anger, conflict, discord, are they going to have a role to play in any decisions being made going forward in the hopes that it would change and improve things, right? So that's what I'm seeing there with the money card. And so I'm going to end the reading at that point, or on this point. So again, this is James and Mitchell. If you made it to this point in the video with me, if you hung out all the way to the end here, I thank you so much for the gift of your time. I never take that lightly. And I look forward to seeing you in the next Oracle Outlook video reading. And remember, I'm going to be doing another Tableau-style type reading that came to me as a burst of inspiration, right? So let me know how you like this reading, since I talked about burst of inspiration, and this was another one of my experiments. So let me know how you like the Tableau of 13 in the comment section below. If you want to see it again, I'd be more than happy to do it, because I really did enjoy the process, and I do like how it turned out. So again, just give me your thoughts, and again, I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. So until then, take care, be well, and have a great week.